Good morning, staff. Thank you for joining me today on Google Meets. Today we're going to revisit the caring school community. If you recall, in June we had some professional training on that, and today is just an extension of that. And we will focus on one thing today. But before we begin, let's review our norms for online professional learning. Please have your video on during our Google Meet to facilitate conversation. Please have your microphone on mute when you're not speaking. Make sure your name is displayed on your video, and please use the chat box for questions in our large group setting. We will be answering some questions in our chat box, as well as I will monitor that if there are any other questions throughout our professional learning today. Our learning targets for today are: the staff will further their learning on why SEL and community matter, develop a shared vision for our school culture here at HSAP, strengthen your understanding of priorities, the components, and weekly structure of caring school communities, and we will identify some actions you can take for preparation and implementation of CSC. The Collaborative Classroom is a nonprofit organization dedicated to ensuring all students experience caring classrooms where they develop into highly literate, critical thinkers who learn from, care for, and respect one another. This is their goal. The Caring School Community goal is to help students become responsible members of their communities and ultimately to grow into humane, principled, and skilled citizens of a democratic society. When we are thinking about our professional learning and our return to the classroom next week, it's going to be clear for us to establish a routine and communicate clearly. We want to focus on our relationships with students and well-being prioritized over assignments and behavioral compliance. This is especially true during our pandemic and post-derecho as well. We want to build a sense of safety with our students and know that they're safe when they're attending our enrichment classes. We want to develop connectedness to our school here at homeschool, as well as provide hope for students. All right, like I mentioned earlier, staff, we are going to focus today's professional learning on morning circles. I know most of you have done morning circles in your previous positions, but this looks a little bit different than what we're used to do. So we're gonna go through and practice some of these skills together, and then you'll have some time to investigate materials and lessons on your own as well. So our importance and reasoning behind the circle structure is building that safety and trust for our students, making sure there's equality and all voices are heard, equity, giving everyone a chance, having facilitation, beginning to give group responsibility as well as ownership over conversations and what activities may or may not occur during our morning circles as well. Does anyone have questions at this point? All right, guys, thank you. Seeing no questions in the chat box, I'm going to go ahead and move on. If you recall, last June, we began learning about the CSC model, and they just gave us a real brief overview of the morning circle. The morning circle typically consists of 15 to 20 minutes of your day. We start with our greeting. We add some news and announcements for the day and an activity as well to end out our day. So as a group today here on Google Meets, we're going to practice using an introduction greeting. There are multiple kinds of introduction greetings throughout the CSC curriculum, but today we're going to start with the one that's on the screen right now. So we always want to say hello using your greeting word of choice, share how you're feeling today, and then you tag someone else to go next by greeting them by name. An example would be, howdy, today I'm feeling happy. I want to say to hi or howdy to Wayne. At this point in my professional development, I would pause and let all of the staff members go ahead and practice this morning introduction greeting. All right, everyone, thank you for your participation. The next thing is the activity part. So an activity during morning circle is something we do together that will help bring forward our thinking for our CSC work through the week. Every week's lesson focuses on one type of skill, a social skill. For example, it might be empathy one week. Today, for our professional learning, we're going to think about a time when you felt connected to a group. What were people doing and saying that made the group something you connected to so well? Staff, at this time, I want you to spend about 1 to 2 minutes thinking about how you can answer this question. When you're ready, please put a thumbs up in our chat box. As people are putting them in, I would just watch to make sure that everyone has put a thumbs up. Then I would ask in order of the thumbs for everyone to share their response. After every staff member has been given a chance to share, I would identify some important themes that have come across from all of them. I would think many of my staff would say that many of them have groups of family or friends, and they all have a common goal or a common purpose. All right, thank you, staff, for sharing. We're going to go ahead and move on through our CSC curriculum today. This next one, I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste the link and put it in our chat box. When you read this article, what I want you to do is think about these 3 questions. What did this passage mean to you professionally? What does the passage mean to you personally? And what is one word you would use to sum up the reading? When you finish reading the passage, I would like you just to answer one of those questions in our chat box again. I'd probably give about 5 to 6 minutes, kind of monitor the staff based on whose eyes are looking at me on the Zoom camera or on the Google Meet camera, just so I kind of know when we can move on, and checking the box to see how many people have answered the question. Once everyone has finished, I would facilitate discussion, kind of going around my screen and making sure that I talk to each person and have them share about their response. All right, nice job, guys. So, debriefing the morning circle. In what ways might the morning circle help create a sense of community? So when we look at this circle, we notice that the center is that social emotional learning, which we all know is very important for student success. So we want students to gain self-awareness, develop self-management, have responsible decision-making, build positive relationship skills and have those in their back pocket, and also be socially aware. Thinking of the ABCs, we want to use CSC curriculum to have the following things: autonomy, belonging, and competence. Autonomy gives every student a voice, choice, and empowerment. It also creates a sense of belonging in our community. It develops respectful and supportive relationships with other classmates. And we also share values and have a set of norms to follow. The C is for competence. So we're developing efficacy in others. We learn how to collaborate and help one another. We develop responsibility and other skills. The caring school community approach, if you recall, is building caring relationships among students. We're directly teaching social skills. This is huge because we often assume that students come to school with all of these, but they really don't. They need to have some direct instruction, just like academic areas. We also create a calm, orderly learning environment through the use of effective classroom management strategies. And my favorite is the last one. So we're helping students acquire self-discipline. So through a caring and effective approach to discipline is marked off. At this point, I would stop and ask questions about why staff think that might be eliminated from the last bulleted area. And then we'll come back and continue. Our next part, not our last part actually, staff, is to go through some of the CSC materials and lessons. But before I send you off and get you registered via the link I sent you in an email this morning, I want us just to take a quick look at an example of what the materials and lessons look like. So here is the package for 2nd grade through 5th grade. There's teachers' manuals, there's booklets, there's additional literature books too that go along with many of our lessons that will be included in your box, in your kit. For example, the organization of the school year is laid out really, really nicely for all of us. So there's 30 weeks in our school year, and from weeks 1 through 10, you work on beginning of the year. You make sure that everything is taught in order from weeks 1 through 10. We get to know one another, we agree on our norms, we take care of our classroom and ourselves, etc. Then the 18 topic weeks can be taught in any order. So that might be designated towards something that's going on in your classroom and with your students, so school life, character building, social issues, etc. Then there's weeks that you can create your own as well, and then the closing week, so reflecting on the classroom community. All of the CSC skills can be integrated across the school. So in math and science, in the humanities, art, and movement. That's why it's so important for all of us, even here at home school, to be teaching these skills, because many of our students are dual enrolled, as you know, and sometimes they often go back to their resident school as well. So it's really good for us to align with the Cedar Rapids Community School District and their mission and vision for CSC curriculum. Some key features of class meetings, so that would be after a community circle or done throughout the day. So the students and teachers sit in a circle. The teacher sits at the same level with the students. So if the students are in chairs, the teacher is in a chair. If the students are on the floor, the teacher's on the floor. Your discussion is revolved around authentic topics, and students do most of the talking. If you remember the A part of the ABCs of CSC, that really talks about that autonomy piece. We often review the rules, cooperative structures are used, and we have followed up meetings around topics that are held. So we don't ever want to have a day where we discuss something just one time, but we want to keep going and revisit it. All right, so you also need to establish some class meeting rules. One person talks at a time, you look at the person talking, you let classmates have their own emotions and opinions, and when discussing problems, you don't use names, you say people. So all of these things are included in the lessons that you're going to go off here in just a minute and look at. What I would like to do is I'm going to set a timer, and I will give you 30 minutes to go ahead and log in, create your account. You'll get a link to register, and then you'll be directed to your grade level specific curriculum to look at for 30 minutes. I'm going to set the timer with a 5-minute warning and then a 3-minute warning, so everyone will know when to come back. Please don't leave your space that you're working in from home or from your office today. I would like everyone to kind of just work right with their camera still on. Does anyone have any questions before I go ahead and set the timer and let you start looking through your materials? At this time, I would just pause and wait and see if there's any questions. If not, I would say, all right, staff, it's time for you to go ahead and look through your lessons and materials. I will be here waiting, so if you have a question, please just pop back in and say in the chat room, Jeannie, I have a question, and then you and I can chat a little bit. Thank you. Once my 2 warning timers go off, I bring the group back and ask just a few questions. Was there anything new that you learned? Something you have a question about? And we'd have just a kind of a round robin discussion at this time. Give everybody a voice. I would also probably, since I have such a small staff, I would definitely call on each individual and ask them, what was something you learned? What is something you're excited about with the CSC curriculum? Those are all good facilitation techniques as well. All right. So now, since you guys had a chance to look at that, you probably already came across what the week of a Caring Schools community may look like for you. I really like how they have the week, and it tells you the materials that are listed on the side, kind of gives you a checklist and how you should be thinking about setting up your classroom so you can have a successful community circle. We want to make sure that these circles are interactive and as much as student-led as possible. Obviously, at the first few times you do it, it's not going to go perfectly, but over time you'll get into a rhythm and the kids will know the pattern and they'll know what to expect each day. All right, so looking a little bit deeper into the week in life for K-5 students in a caring school community classroom, Grade 3, Week 6 focuses on developing empathy with students. So we have an overview of that. This week, the students focus on building their natural empathy by actively imagining the feelings of others. They use feeling cards and activities that help them recognize, label, and talk about various emotions, both positive and negative. I think this would be a really great opportunity to ask my staff to share out a time when students may have shared something with them and how they showed empathy towards a student. Next, we want to always make sure, staff, that we are looking at that before the week starts. This is going to be your key to making sure you are ready to integrate and teach empathy. So here's your overview for the week. It tells you exactly what to do on Monday. You teach the tea party greeting, what's happening in the picture. You also are going to need the feeling cards again. You'll have your closing. And it looks like you're teaching the closing on Monday as well, but you practice that every single day. And then you revisit the feeling cards on Thursday. There are home connection activities to go with all of our curriculum too. At this time, staff, we are not going to share that with our enrichment students. So again, it's just the overview here of what you're doing at the beginning of morning circle and then your closing circle, which closing circle professional learning we'll learn about in a couple weeks. All right, so let me ask you this. How do you see CSC fitting well within our current format? Thank you, Wayne. Yeah, so at this time, I would just ask these questions to my staff, have them share out. Like I said, we have a very small staff, so it's a little bit easier for us to talk, especially in Google Meet. Go through all of these questions. Staff, coming back to CSC, you also have been given professional learning on PBIS, and although we don't use PBIS here at homeschool, it still is really good to know, especially for students that are dual enrolled, like I said before, and or eventually returning to a resident school, because having the rules and the procedures and norms for PBIS is also very important, especially if we're moving kids from a Tier 1 plan to a Tier 2 or even to a Tier 3 plan once they return to the regular public schools. So here's how they kind of differ. PBIS are the rules, the procedures of the school, it's teacher-led direction, and it provides that MTSS framework. Whereas CSC, we develop norms together as a class. The kids drive the why, supports translating and generalizing. We focus on internalizing and really building that self, and then the core SEL instruction. Now, both of them, CSC and PBIS, are proactive and they support student behavior and learning. All right, staff, here is a chance for you to ask me any questions. You can put them in the chat box, or you can just talk amongst ourselves. Of course, if you see someone getting ready or taking their microphone off mute, please wait. All right, staff, thank you so much for a great PD today. I hope your first community circle next week goes smoothly. I can't wait to hear about it.